Let me welcome a guy whose longevity alone should get his name in the Broadcasting Hall of Fame. Add to that, he's someone who has done news stories, and when they end, you really stop and think, and you say he's made an interesting point. And I think that's happening less and less in media today. It's a man who started out, at least as my sources tell me, doing Cleve Hermann's Live Line to Sports. Went on to KFWB, where his tenure lasted 30 years, doing many different things, including the feature at large in L.A. And what better way to introduce a man who's really second to none in terms of radio commentary and bringing out perspectives on life that are hard to come out in any other fashion. Cleve Hermann, welcome.
Well, I was real glad to be here, Glenn. And actually, at KFWB was 37 years, and there's something before the live line to sports.
37 years?
Yeah, at KFWB. But that was after I'd been a newspaper man for a while. I'm 97. My next
I know,
birthday.
and you don't look a day over 90.
That's true. But I started out, and I was doing as it will eventually come out. I've left KFWB and I'm trying to do something different. And I was trying to get my resume together, and I recalled all these names of things. And the first thing I started out in the electronic media was on Channel 4, where I was put because at that time in the history of the world, which is just after 1950, there was an ad for Hathaway shirts that had a man with an eye patch over his eye, and he was the man of distinction, and I happened to have one eye, and so they were looking for a one-eyed sportscaster. Actually, there were three in Los Angeles at the time, and I always said the reason I got the job because I was the one who drank the least, and I'd probably show up more often for the job, so I got on-the-job training. But my program was called The Trophy Room with Cleve Hermann, the man with the point of view of the fan. So that goes back before the live line to sports.
So before that, did you really have this desire to get either on radio and get on television?
No, it was accident. The guy that, as I say, I really think that they picked me because I was the guy that would be more likely to be there on time and ready to do it. I was an unknown sports writer for the Los Angeles Daily News. Before that, I had been at the Herald Express. They had a strike in '46, and I went to the Daily News. And I was going to do that and write the Great American Novel, and I did a radio show, one of those half-hour dramas on Sunday afternoons for NBC, McDonald Carey and Bill Conrad, Jason the Golden Fleece. And so I was around the radio thing, but only as a writer. Never thought. I'm a learned extrovert. I was a very withdrawn guy.
Did you like being put in the limelight?
I enjoyed the heck out of it. It happened a real bad time in life when I was, just in my late 30s, and I think I probably was several kinds of bad guy because of it, because it was so enjoyable.
What kind of attention did you get doing the TV show and then ultimately the radio sportscast as compared to the notoriety that you got doing newspaper articles?
Well, actually, your byline means nothing. Nobody knows what you look like. Nobody knows what you sound like. The difference between the two businesses is there is no comparison. There really isn't. Today, a lot of good sports writers are getting exposure on radio and television and are better known than they were at that time. But actually, you were just a name in the paper. And if you were a big columnist, you had your picture in, but that was very small. And people really didn't know the newsman. The newsman's emergence as a personality, and I got a kick the other day, they had the Academy Award show that NBC was going to do. And here's a little picture of Spike Lee, here's a little picture of Morgan Freeman, and a little picture of Jessica Tandy, and a great big picture of Tom Brokaw. He is not a star in the movies. He's the star of this television show. And I think we distort it in that way a lot. It's one of my peeves.
Let's say you were a really good newspaper writer. Did being a good newspaper writer in and of itself qualify you to be a good radio writer?
Well, it's an entirely different thing to write for sound and to write for print. But I think that learning the basics, and I had a marvelous teacher in high school, Los Angeles John H. Francis Polytechnic High School as a kid on Washington Grand it was then, and now it's out in the valley, San Fernando Valley. But she taught me the basics of what is a news story, and I don't think they ever change, and just going from one medium to another was not that difficult because I had an edge on the other guys who had somebody writing for them. I don't think I could have read things that other people wrote. I eventually got a writer when we got a lot of things going who could write just in the same manner I wrote. But I think it's a big advantage to be able to read your own things. And I
What?
think
Sorry, go ahead.
that's okay. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are missing today, is that they don't have that opportunity to do their own stuff.
When you were doing the sports shows, how much contact with the players did you have?
I had a lot, and and most people would say by my newspaper ethics too much, because I became friends. Some of my best friends became sports figures. I still, Gene Mauch, who was the manager of the Angels, the last managerial job he had, and had 3 other jobs in the major leagues. He was like a brother, and still is. And maybe I got a little too close to him, but I love this game. You were talking about the baseball season starting. I mean, I'm telling you, I've spent a lot of time at home now, and if the baseball had been delayed about 1 more week, I would have had some kind of nervous breakdown, because I was on medical leave a lot last summer, and I don't know what I would have done without Steve Stone and Harry Carey and the Chicago Cubs. I mean, that was my life when you're lying around the house.
Yes.
It's a wonderful game, and symbolic in many ways. I could go on a lot of things about how symbolic of the way life is in America, the good parts and the bad parts. There was a French philosopher, I think his name was Barzan, who said if you would understand America, you first have to understand baseball. And there is a little merit to that statement.
A lot of the time you were at KFWB was really in the heyday of KFWB as a rock radio station.
It was the top 40 station to end all top 40 stations, and it almost did. We had at one time a 51 share of the audience, which meant that more people were listening to KFWB than all the other radio stations combined, and they were doing it on merit. I'm not saying that ricky-ticky music of the 50s was that great, but it was the thing that captured this civilization. I mean, Chuck Berry and the Beatles and all those people were a part of our lives, and we played them in the order of their popularity. You got the hit tune every half hour. The number one. It was a hit parade, and the whole thing programmed by a guy named Chuck Blore, who had his finger absolutely on the pulse of this public in Los Angeles. I never knew a man who understood his audience better, and I know a lot of the famous entertainers who can read an audience, and that's what they're known for, being able to give people what they want.
It's really amazing because radio stations don't get 50 shares now. They get
5
2s
is
and
good
3s
now.
and
Oh, sure.
5. 7 is excellent.
8 is the biggest I think there's been in a long time in this town.
How was it for you, though, doing sports on a radio station that primarily played music? Were you the outcast, or was there still a desire to keep that sports image as well?
Well, they made me. This is sort of interesting because I decry the tendency toward funny sports and funny news, and all the major television channels now have comedian-like people doing the sports, and I don't like that. But I did a rib of it, but it was a rib, much in the manner that Jim Healy does it on this station, and he does it expertly. Believe me, he's wonderful. I'm not saying that because I'm on this station. I can't listen to him every day, but I do enjoy him when I hear him once in a while. And he, of course, has a long history of having written for one of the early sportscasters here in this town, Bob Kelly, who was on KMPC, and then Jim went from the writer to being the broadcaster. And so at that time, the sports was a much bigger thing on radio, and my amount of sports was very short. I did my live line to sports in about 45 seconds to a minute and a half max, and everybody else had 15-minute shows. I had a 15-minute shows before this Top 40 radio came in, and that was a wonderful time. We had some brilliant people. Reminiscent of the era of sports when there was Damon Runyon and Henry McLemore and Westbrook Pegler and all those great writers who did sports. That's where they learned it. Red Smith. We had a guy named Sam Balter over at KLAC, was one of the most literate men I have ever met. He did a thing called Sam Balter's Sports Book. And Tom Harmon was on, and he's a great guy. I want to tell you something. The way he went, that is I think, a sportsman's dream. He had 4 birdies on the front 9, and then went out and had his heart attack. I think that's just great to be on your last. His friend Bing Crosby went much in the same manner several years back. Had a great round of golf, I mean.
Yes. So you were able to really mold yourself to fit within the format, which is a sign that you can change with the times. You may not be happy about changing with the times, but you you did what you did in a more compressed form, but still got the points across.
I'm glad you said that because it was true, and one of my problems now is that I'm considered a person who won't conform, and I do conform, but I conform to something that is valid, and we don't have validity anymore, I'm afraid.
You were mentioning off the air that you spent many, many years covering the Academy Awards. Rather timely topic, given that they're on the air tomorrow.
Yeah, so far I haven't missed anything, but I'm not sure about that because I've been doing those since 1947 when Greer Garson made her famous 47-minute speech of acceptance of the award. And of course, there wasn't television in those days, so there was no restrictions on the time. And we used to, the newspaper guys, there was no radio coverage, there was no television coverage. We'd crouch in the orchestra pit. And Bob Hope would come down there and crouch with us and tell us jokes that he thought fitting for that. And if we laughed, then he'd tell the jokes to the audience. We were the instant critics. And it was, of course, an entirely different thing. You didn't have to report in. You waited till it was all over in that case. And then 47, I think we got back to the office about 1 o'clock in the morning to do the report. But I don't know whether I'll miss them. I think I may. I may miss the Academy Awards because that is quite a thing to have covered all that length of time.
It doesn't seem like there's much of a time limit on TV either. They always seem to run much longer than anyone expects.
Yeah, but not because of the speeches, because of their terrible programs.
Could that show be made really exciting and captivating?
You know how it could be, I think, and I know Carl Malden, who's the president of the Academy now, and I should tell him this, but I think there should be a certain percentage of the vote should be the public's vote. I think the public should have a voice in this thing. They're the people who pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's great that members of the Academy, and they are their peers, as we will hear 97,000 times tomorrow night, but I think the public should have a voice in this thing. And I think it would add to the excitement if you knew how the public voted. There'd be reports on the progress of the vote, and then have that running as a suspenseful thing in the thing.
Exactly, because as you mentioned, it is the public who pays the bills.
You see that great literate way I speak, the suspenseful thing in the thing? I mean, I just ad-libbed that.
That's pretty good. You'd think you were in radio or something. Did you find you got yourself typecast as a sports announcer and it was difficult to move into doing other things?
Mm-mm. No, because as I mentioned earlier, the sports writers of my day were the best writers there were in newspapers. And there's something about the freedom that you have in sports. It's not true now. I don't think there are a great deal of real good sports writers now, that you learn to do it all. And I, of course, had a solid background in news before I got into this, my education. But I have done entertainment, I've done straight news, and I love interviewing. And I think that's because of the wonderful teacher I had in high school who started us out properly. It was a fine, fine lady who I will never forget or never quit thanking for what she did for me. She gave me a whole life.
A signature that most of us would never forget of yours is At Large in L.A.
I love that. I love doing that.
When did it start?
Started by a guy named Ken Draper at KFWB, who said, could you do a feature, could you make it consistently interesting 5 days a week, talking about things around Los Angeles? And he originally intended me, I think, to do things like Old Vera Street and that, but you run out of that. But it just seemed like once you set out to write about people and places in this town, which is a dynamite town, and I've never lost my love for it. I just enjoyed every minute of that because I could go see a play, and if I liked it, I mean, a little theater and anything like that, I'd meet kids that inspired me, and I think it went about 10 years, and not only doing it, but the reaction of people and people who wanted to be on, and that also started me doing the obituaries for the famous people because it naturally fell that, and I knew a lot of them. And I've had a lot of satisfaction with that. One of the most interesting of the reactions was from a buddy. One of my newspaper guys who became fairly famous was Bill Kennedy of the Herald, who was Mr. L.A., had a column named Mr. L.A., and I wrote his obituary, and a buddy of his who has since left us, he called in, he wrote me a letter, and he says, that was a nice send-off you gave Bill. That was what he called the obituary, and I thought that was pretty nice.
Were you doing interviews for the air prior to that feature? I mean, it sounds like you were. If this only went on for 10 years.
Well, I was when that started. I was doing them all my way, and much as I admire Chuck Blore had his own ideas about how they should be done, and I conformed to them because I knew he knew exactly what he was doing. But it was nice to try some of my ideas out about what was interesting and what would interest people. And when I had that kind of freedom, I think I was at my best.
It's funny. I'm reading a book about Barry Minkow now, or Minko,
One of my
or
favorite interview subjects.
however one pronounces his name. And in fact, his biographer is going to be on this program a couple of weeks down the road. But he's mentioning in the book about page 40 or 50 how what Barry Minko, the best carpet king, liked doing when he was young was listening to Cleve Hermann on KFWB. And he told his publicist, if you can get me an interview with Cleve Hermann, you're my publicist for life.
I'll be darned. Well, I don't know. The publicist was very eager to get me, and I enjoyed it very much because I am not a person. I'm not a what is it the current objection to liberals that they're too easy on crime. I'm not, and he did some terrible things. But I want to tell you something. Barry Minko followed the rules of the '80s to get Gecko's speech in Wall Street. Greed is good.
Mm-hmm.
Barry bought that, and Barry did it in every way he could. Whether he did wrong or not, I think it begs the issue. He was caught up in this '80s me, and he is the example, the ultimate example of what can happen if you get too caught up in just making money.
You look at people like that, though, and obviously he had charisma about him, and he had the ability to win people over.
Oh,
He could have done it, though, more honestly, and probably still gotten lots of money and not ended up in jail.
He probably could have, but that is, as I said, those were not the rules of that time, and they're still not. We still have this code of non-ethics, let's say.
One of the things that I think you offer, and fewer people in the media have offered in recent years, is this real human involvement with the news, as opposed to just being a voice that's going to read whatever came off the wires. There's obviously a connection between what you reported, who you talked about, and what you talked about, and the fact that it was Cleve Hermann doing the reporting.
I don't know if I personally, I know that I do not do things in which I'm not interested. And when toward the end there, where I was being more and more doing things that I did not consider valid news stories, I became less and less effective. I'll tell you, it's sort of an interesting thing that my conservative friends are going to kid me about when it comes out in print. The final blow was I was out at this Grammy Living Legends Awards. And it was first of all, the Living Legends left a little bit to be desired. Liza Minnelli was the choice in one area, and I thought in that category that Barbra Streisand probably was a better candidate. Smokey Robinson was another of the four, and I thought that Ray Charles or Stevie Wonder probably would be better suited there. I don't have too much of an argument with Willie Nelson, but then they put Andrew Lloyd Webber in there, and I just do not think that Andrew Lloyd Webber at now, until this moment, is a living legend. And what they did, they had this program so they could do a lot of unknown people, give them national exposure on television doing these people's songs. And I called the editor and I said, this story's a fraud. I don't want to do it. It's embarrassing. I don't think the editor heard me because the answer was, whether it is or not, try to make it sound exciting. Now, those people who know me, who might be listening, will be surprised that I didn't scream or yell, but it was just no scream and yell left in me. I just says, okay, filed a story, and I says, hey, I never learned to manufacture the news. I learned to cover it. And I think that is one of the troubles with today. We are manufacturing the news. I'm very sorry because that's what we've been told we've been doing by our critics. And 3 out of 4 people you meet on the street do not believe us anymore, and that's very frightening.
Do people listen?
Oh, they listen. I'll tell you how they listen. They listen like the children listen. I don't know if you're familiar with Into the Woods, Stephen Sondheim's musical. In the first act, there's a song called The Children Don't Listen, meaning that they're growing up wrong. In the second act, that's changed. I'm not going to go into the whole show, but it's saying they do listen, and that's what's the trouble. They listen to us, and we're telling them nonsense, at a minimum.
Because if you look at the people who are, quote, in tune, in touch with the public, those people are saying what people want to hear is the fluff, they want to hear the happy talk, they don't want to hear anything with substance.
Well, we discussed a little later, nobody has any higher than an 8. Can't be that all that infatuated with it. And they put a lot of money into, you know what it costs to do a survey of what people like? Somewhere in the area of $250,000. talk to me. I'll tell you what people want. I meet them on the street every night. Still.
100,000 you'll charge.
Probably,
You gotta give them a discount. You don't do it for free.
Nah, 225 is more what I had in
Oh,
mind.
okay, fine. Cleve Hermann is our guest. He's a longtime Los Angeles journalist. You'll remember him from KFWB, from Live Lines of Sports on, was it Channel 4?
Yeah, well, the Live Line Sports was on KFWB, the Trophy Room,
Oh,
and
okay, on
the
Channel
Last
4.
Word in Sports, all those good names. Well, those were Channel 4 and Channel 7 later.
This is a man with a very recognizable voice. Our in-studio guest between now and 11 o'clock. If you'd like to join us on the phones, 520-KMPC from Los Angeles or the San Fernando Valley, 977-KMPC from Orange County. Harold, good evening.
Yeah, hi.
You're on the radio.
Let me thank you very much for having Cleve Hermann on. He's amazing. He can cover. You could just turn on the radio and close your eyes, and you can see the game. Cleve, I've got a story about Wilt Chamberlain. Might interest you. I was in the gym of the YMCA in Kansas City, Mo, back when he was playing at Kansas University. And a chap came in whose brother or a cousin was on the team, and he told a story. We were just fooling around, that part of the basketball team was scrimmaging around, and Wilt walked in street shoes and a suit, and there was an Olympic quality weightlifter was getting ready to lift a 400-pound barbell. But first he had to psych himself up. Wilt walked over, lifted it off the floor, pressed it up in the air over his head, and put it down without any warm-up.
He was undoubtedly the strongest man I have ever seen. Hank Gathers, he would bragged about being the strongest man in the world. Well, Wilt, when there'd be a obstreperous rookie that wanted to get in Wilt's cab when they were on the road, they tell stories. He just grabbed them by the front of their shirt and hold them at arm's length. One of these 6'9" kids. Oh. My favorite big person, though, is Bill Russell, because he set a lifestyle for my second son, Larry. When Larry was 16 years old, I don't like to drive because I don't see that well, and so Larry became my driver, and he went around to these sporting events. And one of the things we went to was the sixth game of the championship series between the Lakers and the Celtics, and Bill Russell was then the coach of the Celtics after being so long a player, and he was still played, of course, too. And so for some reason, Bill let the kids into the interview room after the game was over and the Celtics had won. And one of these pontifical reporters says, "Well, Bill, now you've won it 11 times as a player and you've won it as a coach. What's your next goal?" And Bill was, a huge man, tall, somewhat slender, although he's very strong. And he started to laugh, and when he laughed, it started in his toes and just erupted all over his body. And he says, "Man, I don't set goals. I know who I am. On the way home, I'm editing the tape while my son drives, and I came to that part, and he says, that's the way I'm going to live." And he has, and it's a wonderful way to live.
That's great. Harold, thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
That's a great story.
Yeah. I'll tell you about that boy. I went to monitor a lecture by a friend of mine who was in the stock market, and I sat in the back so nobody would see me and listen to her do her spiel. And after it was over, a guy came up to me and he says, "Are you Larry Herman's father?" And I says, "Yeah, I'd never been asked that before." He says, "Well, I want to tell you," he says, "he was the finest employee I ever had." And what it was, Larry's first summer that he could work, he worked at an Arby's over there on Sunset, not too far from here. And any overtime there was, he got, and he worked enough at Arby's to get himself a brand new car. So I guess
that's
he was
a lot
pretty
of
good
work.
Employee.
Unless they were paying him premium wage, that's a lot of work.
They weren't.
How many of your idols and people who you've really looked up to over the years have you had a chance to interview as a result of being in this position?
I want you to understand this. I mean, I think of you as an old friend already, and I wouldn't tell. This is not bragging, but Ella Fitzgerald sent me a thank you note for a review I wrote. I mean, how big can you get?
Not much bigger than that.
I don't know. I mean, I don't. I'm not saying it. I'm in awe of the woman. I got to see her at Carnegie Hall with my daughter just 2 summers ago. How many have I met? I met DeRocher. I met Stengel in baseball, Mock and Bobby Bragan, who was out here with the old Hollywood stars. Oh, I got to tell you another great story about people in this business. Elroy Hirsch, Crazy Legs Hirsch, for the Rams, and before that Michigan and Wisconsin. When he quit the Rams, when he was about ready to retire, he got a sports show on Channel 4, which is where I was. And there immediately Variety said, well, I was on the early evening, he was on late, and Variety says, well, old number 40's there, and he'll probably get rid of Herman, and he'll be that, and he'll take over, and that'll be the end of Cleve Hermann. And this was like I just started, And so the next day, Elroy didn't have to get in until it was time to read his script, which was prepared for him. But he came in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He says, look, I read the story in the paper, and if I'm ever in your way, you just say so. Because I like what you're doing, and I'm old number 40. I can go anywhere, and you just tell me if you need any help.
That's really
Now,
nice.
this is a great way to get introduced to the business. The business isn't rarely like that. I've never met a person like him since. But that's one of my favorite stories. And another great story about him, he's one of the premier pass catchers of all time. And yet when he would talk to us about things he really enjoyed doing, he would talk about the time he struck out Ted Klaczewski as a college pitcher. I've met the people in those kinds of situations. I don't think there's anybody that I wanted to talk to that I didn't. I treasure it amounts to almost a relationship with Bob Hope. He has been so kind to me in granting interviews. I have a friend who says, why wouldn't somebody want to be interviewed by you because you ask questions that are good for them. But if there's something, I can do the other end of the story, but there's so little positive stuff today. I thought that would be my role.
How did you feel doing an interview with someone for an hour or 2 hours and then needing to clip it down into a 2 or 3 minute story?
Miserable, because I've always got 9,000 times as much material as there is room on the air. I'd like to do what you do. I'd like to just spin tapes of people. I'd like to. Right now, that's one of the things I'd like to do. If hello out there, anybody wants to do it, I would like to do an on-stage LA thing. We're talking about the little theater in this town, which is one of the best-kept secrets. We have 300 dynamite little theaters, and lots of times there are better shows in those little theaters than there are at the Music Center or the Schubert or any place else.
And we can all afford to see them.
Another good point. And I would like to publicize those people, not to review them as much as let them know who's doing it. My goodness, you can't imagine the major stars who are in there just doing little things just to hone their art. That's one of the things I would like to do.
We certainly need something because there are so many of these little theaters. It's really hard to figure out what's the good and what's the not so good.
Well, that's one of the things I was told, that you used the expression, that was one of the things I was told was fluff. People aren't interested in fluff. Well, I want to tell you, 7-Eleven. Well, I mean, 7-Eleven robberies aren't that thrilling either. We got a lot of them.
Charles, good evening. Hi, you're on the radio.
Am I on now?
I think so. At
Great.
least
Okay,
you're on the
I
radio.
got a few questions to ask Cleve Hermann, but before we get into that, probably the greatest all-around athlete of all time in college was Crazy Legs Hirsch. He could do anything well. Good enough to play in any sport, pro, any kind of sport. Okay? Now, the questions I want to ask him is, who does he consider, since he's announcer, the greatest that he thinks is the best announcer in their certain sports?
In sports?
Okay?
Contemporary?
Baseball,
at the moment?
basketball, boxing? Okay, down the line.
Well, baseball, there's no question, Vin Scully.
You got Scully.
The best
How about basketball?
chick is way above him.
Okay,
I don't know.
that's-
I haven't heard
on
most.
my list here.
I haven't heard most of that.
Charles, you have to let Cleve talk. He's
Okay, I'm sorry.
the guest.
No, I'm sorry. No, I have not heard most. Is that who you suggested? Johnny Most?
No?
Who's your favorite?
On basketball?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Okay. I don't think there's any contest because he is in the game. There was a guy here at KMPC in the old days that did the Ram games, if you're old enough to remember him.
Hey, come on, I'm 70.
Hey, you're a kid.
I know them all.
No, Bob Kelly. Bob Kelly kept track of all 22
Kelly was
men
all right,
on the
but he's too
field.
much of homer for the Rams.
He was the best football announcer I have ever heard and ever expect to hear.
Well, you never heard the greatest of all.
Who's that? Who?
Ted Using.
I don't think so. Ted got too personally involved. I mean, my favorite Ted Husing story is, and it may be apocryphal, but he had a bet on a game, and and the team was losing, and a player on his team broke loose in the closing minutes, and it's alleged.
Had a knack of saying what he thought on. In fact, they dumped him from for a while.
For saying that Harvard's team performed in a putrid manner, isn't that right? I think that was the expression he used. God, that was daring for those days. But let me tell you my Bob Kelly story. Bob did the L.A. Open for 11 years on radio, and then for the first, and then I and Gene Mauch were going to do it on Channel 4. The first time a golf tournament is going to be televised, and KNX got the radio rights away from KMPC, and Bob called me up, and Bob was not fond of either Harmon or Chick Hearn, who was helping Harmon with the broadcast, and he says, would you have me on your broadcast? I says, hey, come on over. I don't know golf from golf. And he came over there, and his station, I was the star, of course, so I was on 18 and 9, but Bob had a little perch, I think it was about 18 feet in the air in the wind of January on the 17th green. Bob went over there the day before our telecast started. The tournament started on Thursday, so he went there on Thursday. Our telecast didn't start until Friday. He spent 8 hours in that little perch practicing something that he had been doing for 11 years. That's how you get to be good. Preparation.
Once you think you're good, you're probably not good anymore.
Ethel Barrymore said, when you quit getting butterflies, the show's over. Didn't tell me that.
I have a feeling you've gotten butterflies all along, if it's any indication of how good the show is.
Thank you.
It's a man who I really appreciate and respect, folks. If you've gotten that idea, I'm sure any of you who've been familiar with Cleve's work agree, hands down. He's a man who approaches broadcasting in a fashion quite unique to this business. Sandy, good evening.
Hi. I have a technical question. Cleve, when you started out, there was no tape. It was either live or electrical transcriptions, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, now, were you talking about television or radio?
Radio.
Yeah, on radio, we were live all the time.
As I mentioned, if you made a mistake, that was it.
Yeah. And we made them. But it was fun. It was fun that way. Anything that keeps you up, that keeps the adrenaline flowing, I think is good for you. So you don't have artificial. There's a big thing today about punching things. You punch things, and to me it sounds like sing-song. The people are doing what they're told to do. But just to be excited about what the heck you're talking about, you don't need any lessons in punching. It's exciting. This is what's happening. This is it, kids. Let's hear about it.
It's realism right there.
Yep, it really is.
I guess in television, too, you didn't have tape when you started either, did you?
No, they didn't. They barely had cameras when I started. But as a matter of fact, I did a television show in a little booth that is smaller than this one by far, Glenn, and the camera shot through the window at me. And,
really?
That was over on Sunset and Vine, where Home Savings is, where NBC was in those days. NBC and at that time Channel 4. I think they call it KNBH. It's had 2 different call letters since it became KNBC.
Sandy, thank you very much. Cleve Hermann is our guest, longtime Los Angeles broadcaster. If you'd like to join us on the telephones, 520-KMPC, the number from Los Angeles or the Valley, 977-KMPC from Orange County. Didn't you get kidnapped?
Oh, we have a mutual friend that has the best remark about that. I was counseling. I've been married 3 times and had several other unsuccessful romantic liaisons, but a young lady friend of mine needed to be counseled about her marriage, and I met her at a bowling alley on Hollywood with Old Starlight Bowl. And coming out, these 2 guys met me, and I don't know from anything. It was a well-lit place. It was a lousy place to commit a robbery. But anyway, they stopped me, and they got me in the car and took me home. And that consists of kidnapping. I'll not bore you with all the details, except that it's a real good way to be immortal, is to be in a running story in the newspapers, because it says Cleve Hermann 56, and you are 56 from that time on until the trial is over. They just look at their clips. This guy's 56 years old. You stay 56 years old. But in any event, the morning it came, it happened like 11 o'clock at night, and they didn't release me till about 3 o'clock in the morning. And of course, when the morning crew came on at KFWB, then an all-news station already, it was announced that Cleve Hermann had been kidnapped. And John Swaney, our mutual friend, who is now an attorney and also on KGIL, he looked and he says, "Why?" And nobody else could answer.
So it did not last for days.
No, it just lasted for 3 hours. But I tell you, it was an interesting thing. These guys had I don't know from guns, but I was told it was a .45. It was a deadly looking thing, and they had it. And I remember, the funny things you think about. I'm a nut on grammar because my family did not speak good English, and I had to learn it the hard way. And so this guy says, to me, he says, if you're lying about, I didn't have any money on me, which was not unusual. I happened to have some in my boot, but I'd forgotten about that even, and I wasn't about to give it to him. And he says, if you're lying about not having any money, can I pistol whip you? And I swear to God, I said, you mean May? And it was, may I? And I think that just being able to talk saved me in that situation. Because I don't remember being nervous. I don't remember being rapid heart palpitation or anything. I just was going to talk. That's all I knew how to do, and I did it. I invited them. I had them into my house. They wanted to drink, and I said, well, if we're going to have drinks, we can't have guns. You got to put the gun away. They not only put the gun away, they took the bullets out of it, left it on the table.
So it was really your ability to set them at ease.
Eddie Murphy has a more colorful way of putting it, but I just talked my head off. It was all I could do.
Did they come get you because you were you, or you were just some
No,
guy
they
who was
didn't know me.
walking out of your car?
At that time, there was a book came out called Cleve Hermann at Large in L.A., which was a collection of the most requested numbers of that, and on the back of it said what Mark Hellinger did in this, and what Stud Sterkel did in Chicago, and what Mark Hellinger did in New York, Cleve Hermann's doing in Los Angeles. I said, they not only didn't know me, they didn't know Stud Sterkel or Mark Hellinger either. They were just a couple of guys that needed some bucks.
So are you one of these guys who screams at the radio when someone uses grammar improperly?
It's not a matter of screaming. I just deplore. There's so many things that happen because we don't use the language correctly, and I mean there are dangerous things. For example, use of words, what they mean. And let's do a practical one. And some man I admire, Harry Truman, is responsible for this. The Defense Department. It is not the Defense Department. It's the War Department. But you can't get taxes for people for war, so you call it the Defense Department. That's not right. That's not just. Income tax. Income is supposed to be unearned, not what you don't do from wages. Wages are not supposed to be. Now, the wage earner pays more percentage of his money than the people that have income, and they want to reduce that. So it's good to know how this English language works, so you know how you're getting beaten up.
It's amazing to me the words that just sort of creep into our language. And the one that I became most aware of, at least the term I became most aware of, is coming online. Talking about various social programs coming online.
Yeah.
Never would have been there prior to the advent of personal computers.
Well, I'll tell you, if you're familiar with a book called The Elements of Style by Strunk and White, they have a thing in there. My very unfavorite word is hopefully, and how much is utter nonsense when you say I'm going to the airport. Are you going to the airport in a hopeful manner, or are you hopeful that you can go to the airport? We don't know how to use this word, and yet we use it for every situation. It's all purpose. Same way with the word incredible. I won't bore you anymore, but incredible is my absolute favorite, because it no longer means unbelievable. It means astonishing. It means sensational. It even means sexy in some cases. And there was a headline in one of these little magazines that you get in the supermarket and said, "Incredible new evidence of life after death." Well, this is not what you want to hear when you're in your 70s.
I'm trying to think of how many infractions I've made since the program started.
No, you're fine. I'd let you know.
At this point in time is my favorite.
Yeah. That's now, as far as I can tell.
Yes, it's either at this point or at this time or now.
At this point in time is four syllables, and one takes care of it, now. And then then if you want to get into cost efficient, that's 4 syllables, which means cheap.
In studio with us, the great Cleve Hermann. Cleve guesting until 11 o'clock tonight. And lo and behold, the lady of the red-eye flight, the lady who will be here in an hour and 15 minutes, is here on the telephones. Rachel, howdy.
Well, irregardless of the fact that at this point in time I'm on my way to work, I wanted to say hello to Cleve. I don't know that he remembers me, but we met
kidding?
at
Are you kidding? I remember the incident.
One really good page of Really Bad Hemingway contest.
Right. At the old, at Harry's Bar and Grill in Century City.
And I believe you were attacking someone's grammar even then.
I have always done this,
I wanted
Rachel.
to ask
That's
you how
all
you
I
felt
do.
about impact as a verb.
Oh, yeah, that's one of my favorites.
And whether or not you think one should say short-lived or short-lived.
It's short-lived.
Thank you so much.
Oh, of
I
course.
needed to hear someone, a real professional, say that. Cleve, I've always really much enjoyed you. I don't think I'm going to get there in time to see you again since you're leaving at 11, but you guys are making me almost pull over to the side of the road. I'm really enjoying this.
Well, tell me where you're parked, and I'll join you.
I'll be the blonde in the big blue car.
I know what you look like.
Thanks, Cleve.
Good night, Rachel.
Hey, guys.
Bye-bye. Mine is February.
What?
Everyone says February.
February.
It's not February, is
It's
it?
February. But it's very tough to say. And I'm sure that I say February once in a while. This is like the same way with the word library. That's a toughie. It really is. I mean,
And then the other one that I remember, in terms of botching someone's name that has happened on the radio now and then, is Monahan Began.
that reminds me of one of my favorites. What is it? Oh, I said for a long time, Israel. You know, it's Israel. I say Israel, and I don't know why, except that I fancy that language a lot, and it has so many wonderful words that have that ish sound, and there are no better words than kvetch, and what's the other one? The lady had, oh goodness, I can't think of it, but it's a word. Oh, covetous, I say. You know, because you kvetch, so I say covetous. I say covetous. Nobody's perfect.
Roy, howdy.
Hi, Glenn. And Cleve, my favorite word, or my most unfavorite word, I guess, is, and I wonder if you have a problem with this, reportedly. When you hear a newscaster giving a report and he says reportedly, why does he need to say reported?
Well, it is not, things like that are not qualified enough, but I agree with you. That's a bad way of doing it. There are legal necessities for certain things of that. The things can be alleged and charged.
I can go with alleged, but when they're saying Cleve Hermann has reportedly been kidnapped, according to sources, why can't Cleve Hermann has been, kidnapped according to sources? But at any rate, that happens to be
that
my
was
favorite.
so incredible, you see.
What's that?
That was so incredible that we probably had to insert that.
Oh, I see. Well, Cleve, I had the pleasure of working with you at KFWB briefly as a news writer in 1970. It was a great honor to be with you in the newsroom then. That was at KFWB. Of course, I go way back as a kid to your days at Channel 4, and for me, the golden years in sports were when you were at Channel 4, and then we had the Angels and Wrigley Field and the Hollywood Stars. And I wonder if there are any stories that come to mind concerning our minor league teams.
The old Pacific Coast League. I agree with you. Those were wonderful days. As I think if you were listening earlier, one of my best friends is Gene Mock, and he used to play, of course, for the Angels, for the Los Angeles Angels. And then at that same time, Bobby Bragan was manager of the Hollywood Stars, and he was a good friend too. And when they played each other on Saturdays, they were very frequently at my home. And I will never forget one incident where we were talking about throwing at a batter. And Bobby Bragan, of course, was a Sunday school teacher. And he says, I would never do that. He says, I'll brush the guy back. That's a part of the business, but never throw at a man's head. Well, we talked about this all night, and Gene insisting that was the pitcher's bread and butter. He had to be tough on the hitters. The next day, Gene doubles his first time at bat, and Bragan is catching. And the next time up, here comes it bit, and Manitou had taken his hat off. He hadn't ducked. And he looked, and Bobby, as he got up from the ground, Bobby says, that was pretty close. He says, yes, it was. And if you hadn't known about it, you'd have never been able to catch it, you old man. So there are a lot of stories about those days and those kinds of characters. That was a pretty good league.
Oh, yeah, those characters, like you say. How about Dick Stewart and Steve Bilko and some of those people?
Yes, and then, by the way, Bob Rowe, who is on this station, has information about the Pacific Coast League, and if you're interested in memorabilia of it, he's the guy to listen to. He's very good.
I heard him do that show, and I did hear him talk with the president or the director of the old PCL fan club or something like that.
Right. There is one, and it's I've got to take care of that pretty soon. Go get involved with it myself.
Can I just ask one thing, just for old time's sake? Could I hear you say, "Make the mark of the Merc at the moment"? You know that thing that KFWB and
from my alliterative period. Make the mark of the Merc at the top of the time and temperature tower at KFWB 72. Who is this, by the way? Tell me your name.
I'm sorry?
Who are you?
My name is Roy, but I just worked briefly as a news writer, intern in 1970. So you were kind of recuperating. Then you'd come back, and Mark Saban was running the newsroom, and things were kind of in turmoil, I think. But I don't know if you recall that particular summer. I think you had been quite ill, or had been.
I had a nervous breakdown, which is a euphemism for a mental disorder.
Yeah, well,
which I don't mind admitting.
But I did get a chance to talk with you, and it was an honor. And I'm in Glen, right along with Glen. You are one of the truly greats of Los Angeles, and so I try to follow you all down through the years.
Well, that's
A
good
pleasure.
company. You just put me in, my friend, and I hope I hear from you again. Roy, come tell me your last name.
Quady.
Oh, sure.
I was an intern in
That's
1970.
only 20 years ago, man. I've been doing this a long time.
Right, Gene
Thank-
Fuson and Teresa Drury and
Oh my
those
God.
people back then.
Yeah.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Good night.
Is there room for personality in people who are entering the journalistic business now?
I think you have to conform more today. There are people who really don't know what they're doing who are calling the shots in most cases. I know this will never get me a job in town, but there are a lot of news directors and executive editors and the executives in the editorial department that have, I don't know where they've learned it, but they're mostly dollar-oriented, bottom line. I think this is a little phrase, we're bottoming out on the bottom line because we do not do anything except it's for money. And that's not good. I mean, I'm not against a profit, that's fine, but you're going to get more profit putting some heart in your work. And when you say, this is the way you do it, I'm going to tell you how to do it. I had two people up there who had the most they'd been in town together was about 7 years telling me how to cover entertainment in this town. That's real little hard to take.
Especially because you've been doing it for so long.
Well, actually,
And doing it well.
Since my youth, because my dad worked in the studios, and my dad was not a well-educated man. And he was the treasurer of the union, and I kept the books for him when he was working at Paramount and RKO when I was 8 years old. So I've been in a while.
It just seems like more and more of what's on the radio in terms of news is essentially repeating the same stories over and over again and not doing much in depth. And in terms of the reporters, not showing a whole lot of personality.
This is another one that's going to sound a little homey, but I'll tell you, if I want the news quickly, I listen to KMBC at the top of the hour, and I get everything I want. You can't use that as a promo, and I may want to work somewhere else. But
we can use it in the meanwhile, can't we?
No, it's true. You got real good news people here.
Absolutely. And I guess I was saying that in addition to that, there seemed like in the past there was the top of the hour news, but there were more opportunities besides on National Public Radio to get more detailed information.
Well, you just hit the key. That's where if I want to get the news, that's where I go. I go to FM and NPR. And I hate initials. It's okay, though, if they aren't acronyms.
You should go to FM and NPR as talent. Jane, good evening.
Good evening. The word that drives me crazy right now is basically.
Oh, yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Everything is basically. Now, you're talking about programming. I had two remarks, if I may. A station that has recently brought a young man from Arizona over here and is making quite a splash.
Just don't mention him and don't mention the station. He's gotten enough publicity in this town.
And toilet talk and Anglo-Saxon words and very open discussion of sex does not hit the 70-year-old as the way I like radio to be. It may be appealing to a great many people. I think they lost a great bet, and he's disappeared off. Do you know the fellow from Homer, Alaska that does the Motel 6 ads?
Yeah.
Tom Bodette.
Yeah.
Excellent program that both Extra News and KFI carried, and they've dropped it. And if somebody else wants to carry a ball that's appealing to a lot of age groups.
Has nothing to do with it being old. That guy has a great talent. I mean, I think he's
He
almost as
isn't
good
old at all. Did you see him when he he wrote a book and he toured the country? He's a very young man.
Yeah.
And really a very liberal-oriented,
Jane, thank you very much.
Please get him on your station.
You give me more power than I'm entitled to, I think. I don't think I make these decisions. However, if they'd like to put me in the driver's seat, Cleve Hermann will be on, Tom Bodette will be on. We'll put lots of people on. You were saying he's really a good storyteller, a great raconteur.
I think he's up there with. I think he's a budding Garrison Keillor, than which there is no better. I just love Garrison Keillor.
Cleve Hermann is our guest for just a couple more minutes here on the radio station 520 KMPC. If you'd like to join us to say hello in our waning moments, 520-5672 from Los Angeles or the Valley, 977 KMPC from Orange County. How much time do you spend talking with up-and-coming journalists?
Not as much as I'd like to, because I just think that what's going to happen next, I don't know what's going to happen next, but I would like to have people of a high caliber, intelligent, gutsy people getting into this business, because that is what is not getting into it now. We're getting pretty people. We got plenty of Barbie dolls and chatty Cathys on the female side, and actually there are more good women now than there are good men. And we have enough of the real good-looking guys with the voices. Voices, it's not that important. I want the people that can go get a story and tell it in a coherent manner, quickly.
Do you go to college? Do you do the whole journalism program? Is that the first step at getting ahead?
Should one do that?
Should one do that?
I don't know whether you should take journalism in college or not. I understand that my old school, I was editor of the Daily Trojan at USC. I understand they have a pretty good broadcast school now. I don't know if you can learn it in a broadcast school. I know some good people that have been there, and I know some bad people that have been there. But it depends on what you want to learn and how close you pay attention to the lady said the basics, which are who, what, when, where, why, and how, if you can.
Probably practically most people want to get a job. I mean, they're saying, I want to be a star, I want to be talent, I want to be able to report the news. Is getting a journalism degree the first step in doing that?
And then when you get a job, you got to forget about what one of my colleagues said about another man, is that you are not brought to the news is not brought. You are not brought to the audience by the news. You are bringing the news to the audience, and I think that's a very profound remark.
Let's do this real quickly. Gilbert, good evening. Is it
Hi, I was just going to ask Cleve if he did the Hollywood Stars baseball game, what year it was.
No, I did not do them. I was up for it, but I couldn't do them because I was bound by an exclusive contract to Channel 4, and at that time when I was up for it, Fred Hessler got it. And although he had been an Angel announcer, which really destroyed some of the Hollywood fans, although Fred's a good guy.
But I've heard you for years around. I used to hear you in your car at night and the whole thing, and I've enjoyed it all.
Well, thank you very much. I hope that I did okay in the car. I think by the time I got in the car, it was about I was past my peak in that kind of thing.
Well, I don't say it's past your peak.
No, I'm not saying I'm not giving up and I'm not retired by any stretch, but the conditions under which I work, you did not hear me at my best in the car.
Cleve, I want to thank you for coming and spending the hour with us. It's such a rare pleasure to have someone come in and just talk about stuff for no other reason than because you're interesting and you're fascinating.
Thank you. You got a minute for me to tell you a quick stuff story?
Absolutely.
Okay, one of the great disappointments was last year was the 25th anniversary of Norman Cousins having literally laughed off death for a quarter of a century. I proposed it to my boss, and he says nobody is interested in stuff like that. And I said, what do you mean? Nobody's interested in stuff like life or stuff like death? And that was a blow.
Best of luck in all of your future future endeavors.
I really enjoyed this.
Hopefully we can have you back.
Right, basically.
And we even missed Old Man Rap, Little Old Man Rap. I was all set to play this, and now we're out of time. We'll just have to put it on the waiting list. This is something that Cleve's working on, and hopefully will be out very soon. See, I can use this word quite frequently just because you mentioned it. Cleve Hermann, thanks again for being our guest.
My pleasure.